This week on ANN, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in South Africa responds to local xenophobic attacks.
Zambia's General of Police encourages the Adventist Church in the nation to be strategic with plans for church growth.
And a spokesman for the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Inter-Europe expresses condolences over the migrant boat crisis in the Mediterranean.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, in response to local attacks in South Africa against foreign nationals, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the Southern Africa Indian Ocean region released a statement condemning the acts of violence. The xenophobic behavior has been directed to residents who are from surrounding countries, including Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Malawi. The violence is concentrated to some of the disenfranchised areas of Johannesburg. As a result, hundreds of immigrants have been displaced. Some believe the violence is stemmed from the frustration of a high unemployment rate in the region, as well as issues surrounding the influx of undocumented immigrants. In a statement released this week, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the Southern Africa Indian Ocean region expressed that it is outraged by the current xenophobic attacks against foreign nationals in South Africa. The statement went on to say, without reservation, our leadership and almost 3.5 million Seventh-day Adventist members in Southern Africa condemn all these senseless and horrendous acts of violence and hatred, which has also affected members in our church. To read the full statement, visit news.adventist.org.
What is happening in our country is a shame. As we've worked hard to defeat apartheid, which was a crime against humanity, we have to work hard to defeat this hatred of people who are not necessarily South Africans.
We have a group of refugees from all over Africa who have been displaced by the xenophobic attacks that have been taking place.
We felt as a church, we cannot sit back and look at the situation of our brothers and our sisters being subjected to suffering and pain and, of course, displacement.
Our hearts were just totally broken and we had to do something.
We saw that it is necessary to come and help because we're the hands and the feet of Jesus.
The church is very actively involved in supplying aid and relief to those who are affected by xenophobia attacks. The church is currently providing blankets, food, even makeshift shelter, medical supplies and medical care to those who are affected.
All this would not have been possible with the many donors and partners that have partnered with Meals on Wheels. And right now we are working under the banner of the Red Cross. Red Cross and Meals on Wheels together is working to provide a hot plate of food every single day, not only at this camp, but the camps around Southern Africa.
I see that a lot of people are just looking at the adults, but we often forget about the little ones. There are babies being born in some of the refugee camps. I hear one was delivered on the way from here. And we need to look at those children and those babies because they have needs that are unique, and therefore they should be donors that are interested in the needs of babies in the refugee camps.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church speaks out against the recent xenophobia attacks that has been experienced in South Africa. We are a people, one people, made in the image of God. And an assault of violence against another human being is against ourselves.
The Inspector General for Police for the nation of Zambia last week encouraged a local congregation to formulate a concrete vision for spreading the gospel in the region. Stella Libagani, who is also a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, made her remarks while visiting the Brentwood Seventh-day Adventist Church. According to the Post, Libagani stressed the need for the church to develop a strategic plan to increase the church's membership and influence. Following the service, Libagani also expressed concern over the xenophobic attacks taking place in South Africa. She told the Post, quote, "It is important that every citizen is accorded the human rights which they deserve. So as to what is going on in South Africa, It is definitely not something which is pleasing. It is an abuse of people's rights.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Inter-Europe this week responded to the ongoing migrant crisis in the Mediterranean Sea. More than 800 people are feared dead after a boat capsized on its journey from Libya to Italy. The boat contained hundreds of migrants, including children. So far, only 28 people have been rescued and 24 bodies have been recovered. In response to this crisis, a spokesperson for the Adventist Church in the region released the following statement. "We are deeply moved by this latest tragedy in the Mediterranean Sea. It is striking to see the pain and suffering wrought by this disaster that touches some of the world's most vulnerable people." The statement goes on to say, "There are issues of prevention we cannot walk away from. We cannot ignore the huge humanitarian crisis in Northern Africa." To read the full statement, visit news.adventist.org.
Millions of people around the world this week found opportunities to consider the health of our planet and promote environmental protection during the 2015 Earth Day. The Seventh-day Adventist Church has a long-standing position on exercising faithful stewardship of God's creation. In an official statement, the Seventh-day Adventist Church shared that it advocates a simple, wholesome lifestyle where people do not step on the treadmill of unbridled overconsumption, accumulation of goods, and production of waste. Erika Puni has more on how Adventists strive to practice environmental stewardship.
A key part of being an Adventist is the fact that we take seriously our relationship with God. And so we acknowledge God as the creator of the universe, the earth, and all of the things that we find in the world. And so part of that relationship would means that we have a responsibility as stewards to our world and the community that we live in. Also in terms of our beliefs as Adventists, we accept the 7-day week creation. And so it is part of our spiritual orientation, per se, that would require us to be stewards in taking care of the things that God has provided for us. So it's part of our worship, but it's also part of our living on a daily basis.
20 people have died in a violent altercation between police and members of a religious sect in Angola. BBC News reports that while police were arresting José Julino Kalupateca, who leads the group that calls itself the Seventh-day Light of the World, a violent clash occurred in which 13 private security guards and 9 civilians were killed. Seventh-day Adventist spokesperson Garrett Caldwell has noted that many news reports refer to the group by a name that is easily confused with the global denomination, which is why the Adventist Church must be diligent in protecting its name.
When the story first broke out of Angola, many of the news reports referred to this religious group as the Seventh-day Adventist Church Light of the World, which we found deeply disturbing, immediately react to. So we were very pleased when the head of state of Angola came out and made a sharp contrast between two religious groups in their country. The Seventh-day Adventist Church, which he described as a church based on scripture that loves their neighbors, and this other group that was violent and undermined society. So it's another situation where a person who once belonged to the church left the church because not agreeing with what we believe, not wanting to live the way we want to live, but wanted to take the name with him and start another religious group. It's a recurring situation, and we have to be constantly on our guard against it. The Seventh-day Adventist Church has to stand for one thing and one group of people, and that's very important.
Executive leaders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church last week had an opportunity to hear a moving success story of how the church in the Northern Asia Pacific region is finding ways to retain its members. The report came during the Nurture and Retention session of the 2015 spring meeting. Artur Stelle, a General Vice President of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, has more.
And Dr. Lee has given a report what they are doing in order really to reclaim, to find those who are lost. And especially it was moving when he brought an example from a Korean pastor where church was reduced from quite a sizable amount to only 10 people. And the conference already decided to close the church. But then the 9 members, 10 that were left, asked the conference, give us another chance. So send us another pastor. And they sent a new pastor who had a vision, and he said, well, I've looked and studied what are the needs of my people. And, the personal needs, the spiritual needs, and he started to work, to satisfy those needs. And it was a very interesting story that he presented, that in just few months, the church was packed, not only with those who have been lost, but also with newcomers. And he has now a retention rate of 90%.
A recent State of the Bible survey by the American Bible Society indicates that the majority of Americans believe that the Bible is available in all of the world's languages. Data reveals, however, that the Bible still needs to be translated into 57% of the world's languages. The reports state that out of the world's 6,901 languages, more than 1,800 don't have translations, and nearly 2,200 have incomplete translations. I sat down with Adventist World Radio's president, Dowell Chow, to discuss how the organization tries to reach the world with the gospel. All right, Dowell, I really appreciate you sitting down with us to give us some more insight into this topic. First question I want to ask you, were you surprised, with your experience, your exposure, were you surprised to hear the information in this report?
No, I wasn't. I was not, because there are many people in the world who speak different languages. And in most of the languages that we have the Bible in, most of the people speak those languages.
Okay, well, that's good news. That's good news.
So I was not really surprised.
Okay, all right, that's good. The second question, as a global church, our mission is to preach the gospel into all of the world.
Sure.
So from your perspective, how does this impact that
Well,
goal?
first and foremost, we in AWR work with local people who speak the native languages of the people. We don't dictate to them what they should say, we just give them guidance. So we recruit people who speak the native languages and the vernaculars that people can understand. So we know they're hearing the message in their mother tongue.
Oh, that's good.
Your heart language.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, next question I want to ask is, AWR ministers to people all over the world in many different languages. So how is it you're able to accomplish that?
First and foremost, we recruit people who speak the language natively.
Okay,
They're born in the language. Don't translation is done. We give them resources, yes. By the way, the first language in the world spoken by the most people
is English.
Mandarin.
Not English.
English is the third.
Third? What's
the second? Is Spanish.
Oh, man.
The third is English. The fourth is Hindi. And the fifth is Arabic.
Wow.
In all these 5 first major languages, we have full coverage. So we cover billions of people already.
Wonderful.
Those who speak those languages.
Great. The last question I want to ask you is, what advice would you give to people who are trying to minister to those in parts of the world where there is no Bible in their native language?
First, learn the culture. Contextualize the message to reach the people who you want to reach.
Okay.
And maybe secondly is be reminded that many people cannot read. They need to hear the message.
Hear it, yeah.
Hear in their hearing. So while with the Bible is wonderful to have the Word of God in written format, many people can't read it. So we need to reach them in the language they can understand.
Oh, amen, amen. All right, so thanks so much. Very insightful sitting down with you. All right, God's blessings to you.
God bless you.
Coming up, find out how Adventist humanitarians are educating people worldwide on malaria prevention.
A recent study by the National Sleep Foundation found that playing video games, checking emails and text messages, or watching television at night may be depriving us from getting enough sleep. Nearly 95% of people questioned in the study said they use some type of electronics in the hour before going to bed, and about 2/3 admitted they do not get enough sleep during the week. Exposure to artificial light before going to bed can increase alertness and suppress the release of melatonin, a sleep-promoting hormone. That's a fact. But there's hope. You can make a big positive impact on sleep, mood, health, relationships, stress management, work productivity, and academic performance by making a small change in electronic use before bed. So, switch your device for a book at least a few evenings a week and have a better night's sleep.
Welcome back. And now more news from our global church community.
The World Health Organization has designated Saturday, April 25th as World Malaria Day. This year, the organization is calling for high-level commitment to the vision of a world free of malaria. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency has incorporated malaria education and behavior change into all its health-focused programs. Jillian Bath has more on ADRA's malaria education efforts.
So in ADRA, a big focus of ours for our health programs is pregnant and lactating women and children under 5. Currently, we don't have any malaria-specific programming, but given that malaria is such a huge cause of morbidity and mortality for children, we can't really talk about improving their health and nutrition without talking about malaria as well. And one of the ways that we do that is through a lot of education, awareness, and behavior change communication. So as you probably know, one of the most effective ways of preventing malaria is using bed nets. So we're promoting the use of the bed net, especially for women and children. We're also talking about general health, care seeking, how to identify the symptoms of malaria so that it can be treated effectively and timely and not have long-term impacts for the children.
Leaders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Inter-America recently shared their support of public campus ministries in their territory. The announcement was made during a special online program earlier this month at the church's administrative headquarters in Miami, Florida. During the program, leaders appointed 2 public campus ministries leaders following the appointment of the ministry's director in October 2014. According to organizers, the 7-hour program entitled Trendsetters sought to provide a forum for Adventist students to nurture their Christian faith and empower them to share their faith on and off campus. Organizers also wanted students to foster a social and academic network among Adventists throughout the region. Israel Leto, president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Inter-America, emphasized how this initiative is vital for the Adventist youth in the region. He told the attendees to let the Bible be part of your life every day. The Lord loves you and the church needs you.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church east of the Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil recently inaugurated a Healthy Living Center. The center will offer a variety of programs including music therapy, healthy cooking classes, and medical exams. Havista sent this report.
Equilíbrio, bem-estar e boa saúde estão entre as mensagens transmitidas pela TV Novo Tempo através de sua programação. E em Porto Alegre haverá um espaço da TV para fazer com que a comunidade coloque em prática alguns destes bons conselhos para o cuidado com a saúde em seus diferentes aspectos. Conheça agora este novo espaço, o Centro de Vida Saudável de Porto Alegre.
O objetivo é nós oferecermos à comunidade porto-alegrense cursos em diversas áreas, como tendo a base principal a saúde, não é? Alimentação, exercício físico, descanso, para que assim nós possamos, não é, como igreja, dizer à comunidade que estamos fazendo alguma coisa e dizendo que nós podemos ajudar, não é, principalmente aqui na região do centro de Porto Alegre.
Na semana inaugural foi realizado um curso de culinária saudável. Aliás, no que diz respeito à alimentação saudável, este centro conta com a parceria da empresa Superbom, que está neste ramo há 90 anos.
As pessoas hoje em dia estão preocupadas com a alimentação. E nesse centro aqui elas terão a oportunidade de aprender um pouco mais sobre como melhorar a saúde, como conservar a saúde através do alimento. O alimento é vida. E a alimentação saudável é o que é necessário hoje em dia.
Palestras sobre qualidade de vida e família, orientações nutricionais e aconselhamentos nas áreas psicológicas e jurídicas serão outros dos serviços oferecidos aqui gratuitamente.
Pode participar do Centro de Vida Saudável pessoas que querem investir na sua qualidade de vida, querem mudar seus hábitos, que querem talvez investir na sua alimentação, na alimentação dos seus filhos, quem quer perder peso. É uma grande oportunidade. Nós vamos ter aqui não só cursos de culinária saudável, uma escola de culinária vegetariana, mas também profissionais na área de nutrição, médicos que vão estar também aqui como voluntários contribuindo para que esse projeto ocorra, e grupos de caminhada, grupos de ciclismo, o pessoal que gosta de pedalar vai poder estar participando também. Então o Centro de Vida Saudável ele quer possibilitar várias opções ligadas à saúde e ligadas à alimentação.
A primeira impressão foi ótima, né? Nós gostamos, assim, íamos passando, fomos muito acolhidas, né? Muito bem acolhidas, e nos mostraram o local todo com coisas que a gente procura, né? coisas saudáveis que a gente não tem todo dia. Gostamos muito, né? Muito mesmo.
Para saber mais sobre este projeto e como participar, acesse facebook.com/cvspoa ou cvspoa.org.br.
More than 750 people were baptized in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil this month during a week-long evangelistic campaign. Nearly 50 employees of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in South America, along with 115 local denomination employees, participated in the initiative. The campaign took place during Holy Week, which is the week before Easter Sunday. The event was deemed a success because of its reach to a region with a low Adventist presence.
A devout Rastafarian on the island of Jamaica recently made a bold public statement after hearing the gospel through an Adventist evangelism series. George Johnson, who was a Rastafarian for more than 30 years, was on a journey to find a church that taught the biblical truth. When Johnson stumbled upon a month-long series at the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Falmouth, he said his eyes were opened and the good news filled his heart. He knew that he had found his church and made no plans to leave it. Once he realized that a baptism would take place at the end of the service, Johnson wanted to show that he was ready to leave the Rastafarian lifestyle behind. He left the service to find a barber who could cut off his dreads. In Jamaica, dreadlocks are often viewed as a symbol of the Rastafarian lifestyle. He made it back to the series just in time to publicly dedicate his life to the Lord through baptism.
And finally in the news this week, a Seventh-day Adventist businesswoman in Wales recently decided to make a unique impact in a local shopping center. In an effort to build a better sense of community, Eileen McKenzie, who owns a hair salon, organized a hair and fashion show that featured local products. The local mayor, other government officials, and community members came out in support of the event. Mackenzie's husband told the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the United Kingdom that the event wasn't overtly religious, but it was part of their philosophy of being both salt and light in the community. He went on to say, "Our witness will be a lot more effective if we can help their businesses to prosper at the same time."
We'll be back after the break with our weekly features.
The Lord is my rock, my fortress and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold.
Welcome back. Every year, the Seventh-day Adventist Church sponsors a dinner in Washington, D.C. to honor leaders who made significant contributions to the advocacy of religious freedom around the world. Melissa Reed shares a preview for next week's event.
Next week, the Seventh-day Adventist Church will have the opportunity to host the 13th annual Religious Liberty Dinner in Washington, D.C. This event is an incredible opportunity for our church to highlight God's gift of freedom of conscience and choice to both U.S. and international government leaders. And we ask for your prayers for His blessing on our witness that evening. The Liberty Dinner is attended by individuals representing a wide array of organizations. Members of the United States Congress, State Department, U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, ambassadors and other diplomatic officials, and fellow religious freedom advocates. These attendees have the power to effect change for religious liberty challenges around the world, and we look forward to the chance to applaud and encourage their commitment to religious freedom. We are grateful for the continued support of the Religious Liberty Dinner by our church administration. At the dinner, the church leaders in attendance serve as our ambassadors. They are representatives for our faith tradition and its long-standing commitment to religious liberty. And as always, they are ambassadors for Christ. Each year, we present 2 awards, a national and international, to recognize individuals who have made significant contributions to the cause of religious freedom. This year's award recipients will be Tiffany Behrens of the American Center for Law and Justice and Maheia Costo, rector of the University of Bucharest and member of the Romanian Senate. Both have worked tirelessly for the rights and protections of vulnerable religious minorities. We invite you to join us virtually at next week's Religious Liberty Dinner. On that evening, Wednesday, April 29, you will be able to follow the event on Twitter via the social media hashtag Liberty Dinner. It will be a great opportunity for you to share your passion and commitment for religious freedom.
Now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, learn about the first conference that was held to define the church's core beliefs.
During this week in 1848, from April 20 through April 24, the first of 6 meetings was held at which Seventh-day Adventist beliefs were defined and agreed. Sometimes called Sabbath conferences, sometimes Bible conferences, at these meetings groups of former Millerites came together to identify what they believed in common. This first conference was held at the home of Albert Belden at Rocky Hills, Connecticut, where just over a year later, in July 1849, James and Ellen White would launch their first periodical, Present Truth. The Whites had attended this first 1848 conference, having been invited by E.L.H. Chamberlain, a layman of Middletown, Connecticut. He and his wife were among the first Adventists of that state to accept the Seventh-day Sabbath. Without the 6 conferences in 1848, the Seventh-day Adventist Church would never have been founded 15 years later. On April 21, 1918, Loma Linda Sanitarium's name was changed to White Memorial Hospital and was formally dedicated in memory of Ellen G. White. And 3 years and a day later, on April 22, 1921, the first Adventist baptism in the Venezuelan state of Guárico took place, when American missionary W.E. Baxter baptized 21 converts at Camagüey and then organized them into a local church. But the church was the fruit of literature evangelistic work by a Puerto Rican convert, Rafael Lopez, who sadly was murdered a month later on May 15, 1922. That was this week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide through more stories, photos, and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News, Twitter/Adventist Church, and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9. The passage says, "Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments."
Amen. That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for more daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.